WTOK TV, this is News Center 11.
Well, shoes of victims who have lost their lives due to gun violence now being laid across the Capitol lawn. We'll have more on that. Plus, prosecutors now seeking the death penalty for that suspect in that Florida school massacre.
Good Morning Meridian at daybreak starts now.
Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, March the 14th, 2018. I'm Andrea Williams.
And I'm Andrew Salmon.
As always, we thank you so much for taking out time and starting your day with us with Good Morning Meridian at daybreak. Well, you know what? If you're heading out and about this morning, it's a little chill in the air, but how long will that last?
Right, not that much longer. We'll get into the middle 70s by the weekend. Until then, though, again, it is a chilly start. Might want to grab that heavier jacket as you head out the door to work or school.
Just a little bit, but it's okay.
Yeah, we have these freeze warnings still in effect and some freeze watches as well, mainly for tonight, this morning, even tomorrow morning as well, as temperatures could drop to the freezing mark. I think tomorrow morning, though, will be mainly confined to north of Interstate 20. But again, this morning, we're now above freezing here in Meridian, but I do think we'll drop off to around the freezing mark before the sun rises. We're at 36 degrees. We're at the freezing mark in Philadelphia at 32. 28 in Louisville is the only spot below the freezing mark this morning. So all of us are pretty close to that, and I do think we will drop off at least to at the freezing level, at the very least. Maybe even some more upper 20s will show up on the board before the sun starts to rise. You can see dew point temperatures sitting in the 30s as well, and some 20s. So very close to the air temperature, so frost is forming in some spots as well, and winds are calm, which has been helping to drop our temperatures down to the freezing mark, except for around the Philadelphia NAS meridians coming in at 3 miles per hour, along with Louisville, and then Macon's coming in at 7 miles per hour. But otherwise, we are calm throughout the area. The radar is calm as well. The Southern Bioelectric radar that is scanning the sky is not picking up on any precipitation. This morning is going to stay that way throughout the day. In fact, you'll be hard pressed to even find a cloud in the sky as we head throughout the afternoon. You can see on the southeast again. Any precipitations over North Carolina with some snow showers there, even parts of South Carolina as well, seeing those snow showers. Luckily, we're far away from any of that activity. You can see the southeast is generally colder than where we should be for this time of year. We should be in the lower 40s by the morning hours. Right now, we're about 10 degrees below. Again, where we should be as dew point temperatures sit in the 30s and 20s, so dry air remains in place even as you head down towards the Gulf Coast with dew points in the 30s in New Orleans, Mobile, and Tallahassee. You can see in our across the country temperatures here, again, nothing too significant, just some cooler air in the southern United States than usual. But other than that, we will see that warming trend, though, as we head throughout the rest of the week. And let's take a look at your lake and river heights. Again, Pearl River is on minor flooding. Mississippi River, though, by Vicksburg is moderate, expected to become major within the next day or so. Take a look at your airport forecast. No delays at Meridian Regional Airport. It's 35 degrees with clear skies and calm winds. No delays at any of our area airports as well. And now here's your 7-day forecast. Again, we'll have some. We'll stay dry through Thursday. We'll have some scattered showers on Friday. More rain chances to the weekend. First day of spring, mostly sunny with a high of 73. And now here is your Efficient Game forecast, sponsored by Doc Chevrolet Buick GMC of Thomasville. Your peak times for wildlife activity are 12:20 a.m., which is already passed, and 1 o'clock p.m.
And it's looking good for St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. Warm temperatures.
All right, for people who want to celebrate that. More on weather coming up in just a few minutes. Thank you so much, Andrew. Right now, let's get to our top story this morning. Here's what's happening around the nation today. Many schools across the country are taking part in a special school walkout. And to start things off, many have already left shoes of victims of gun violence on the Capitol lawn. Here is Maggie Ruley with more.
Thousands of shoes scattered across the Capitol lawn, a pair for each child lost to gun violence since Sandy Hook. The image sharp in lawmakers' minds as today students across the country continue their fight for gun reform.
Never again! We refuse to continue watching our peers die around us while Congress debates about whether or not our lives are worth it.
Planning a nationwide walkout. On the front lines, survivors of the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Inspiring a new Florida state law that raises the age of all gun purchases from 18 to 21.
To the students at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, you made your voices heard. You didn't let up.
But they're already facing pushback. The NRA is suing Florida over what they say is an affront to the Second Amendment. And President Trump, who at first was outspoken in his support of gun reform, even going against the NRA just 2 weeks ago.
Some of you people are petrified of the NRA. You can't be petrified.
has now backtracked, and a new plan on school safety released this week from the White House does not include that age change, instead only calling to study the issue. The proposed bill aims to improve background checks, expand mental health programs, and help states to provide firearm training for specially qualified school personnel. All proposals the NRA has previously backed.
The president's primary focus is on pushing through things that we know have broad bipartisan support.
Organizers say they are only getting started. Up next is the March for Our Lives in Washington on March 24th and another school walkout planned for April. Student activists say they don't plan on stopping until they see the change they demand. In Plainville, New York, Maggie Rulli, ABC News.
Well, prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against that Florida school shooting suspect, Nicholas Cruz. He is accused of gunning down 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida last month. That was the 9th deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. Cruz is now facing 17 counts of premeditated murder in the first degree and 17 more counts of attempted first-degree murder. In their decision, which was announced yesterday, prosecutors call that shooting especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. Court documents state that Cruz did confess to the shooting shortly after his arrest. A public defender said last month that the 19-year-old suspect was willing to plead guilty in exchange for his life. Cruz is expected to have a formal arraignment later today. Well, overnight news on the political front today. This special congressional election in Pennsylvania is just too close to call this morning. Only a few hundred votes now separating the candidates in this, with more absentee ballots still to count. Meanwhile, Democrats are still declaring victory. Here's ABC's Tara Palmieri with that story.
Overnight, votes still being counted in a razor-thin special election. A little after midnight, Democratic candidate Connor Lamb declaring victory with just a 579-vote lead over Republican Rick Saccone and more than 1,300 absentee ballots still outstanding.
It took a little longer than we thought, but we did it.
Republicans not ready to concede.
You know, we're still fighting the fight. It's not over yet. We're going to fight all the way to the end.
The race being watched from around the country as a bellwether of what's to come in the midterm elections. President Trump stumping for Saccone over the weekend. In 2016, he won that district by nearly 20 points.
They're all watching because I won this district by 22 points. It's a lot.
A victory for Lamb in Trump country is seen as a sign of a blue wave across the country. For Democrats, this win could rally their fundraising efforts ahead of the November elections. Just days after signing market-rattling tariffs, President Trump in Steel Country came out swinging against the Democratic candidate, who has claimed he's running as a moderate.
Lamb the sham, right? Lamb the sham. He's trying to act like a Republican, so he won't give me one vote.
As results pour in, President Trump has yet to weigh in.
Republicans spent a whopping $10 million on this race. Earlier this morning, the National Republican Congressional Committee said they're ready to ensure that every legal vote is counted. Tara Palmieri, ABC News, Washington.
Meanwhile, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort could spend the rest of his life in prison, and here is why. Manafort is now facing charges for tax fraud, conspiracy, and foreign lobbying violations. A federal judge in Virginia stated yesterday that if Manafort is found guilty on all of those charges, he's facing a maximum sentence of 305 years behind bars. Manafort is currently under house arrest for separate cases out of Washington, D.C. and Virginia, both scheduled for trial later this year. A judge in Virginia has now set a $10 million unsecured bail in this. Manafort is under similar bail conditions for that case out of D.C. He has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges against him. If he changes his plea to guilty to avoid going to trial, Manafort may have to speak with prosecutors in that Russia probe. Meanwhile, the Virginia trial is set for July the 10th. That trial in D.C., it is set for September the 17th. Acclaimed British physicist Stephen Hawking has died. He was 76 years old, widely considered to be the world's greatest living scientist. Hawking was widely known both in scientific circles and popular culture. Hawking's landmark book, A Brief History of Time, explained astrophysics in lay terms, and it sold more than 10 million copies. He lived with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, since the year 1963. Hawking spent much of his life confined to a wheelchair, and he relied on a speech synthesizer to speak speak for him. He also lent that identifiable computerized voice to guest stars himself on several episodes of The Simpsons and also appeared on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Stephen Hawking leaves behind 3 children and 3 grandchildren. A family in Washington now dead after the father killed his wife and 2 children and then killed himself before police arrived. Here's more on that story.
Life is just the pressures of life.
It breaks my heart for those kids.
It's like just completely shocking.
Shock, disbelief, just some of the words neighbors use to describe how they feel after police say a father killed his entire family and then himself inside this home on 209th Street East.
It's a tragedy, that's all you can really say.
Investigators say the mother, 33-year-old Samantha Field, and her 2 children, 4-year-old Ava and 2-year-old Ashen, were all shot to death in their own beds early Tuesday morning. Police say the father, 29-year-old Clinton Field, then texted his family about what he had done before calling 911. Investigators said he told dispatchers he planned to kill himself. Officers arrived to their Pierce County home and found everyone inside dead. Investigators have also learned the couple may have been facing a possible divorce, and the father has had prior mental health issues.
He had had a past incident that mentioned suicide, so he may have been being treated for that.
Neighbors said the family kept to themselves for the past year since moving in. Now some wonder what could have been done to avoid this tragedy.
I think it's horrifying. I think it's tragic that it's tragic that there's ex-military or current military that's hurting so bad that when things don't process in their brain properly, that they're left with an option of killing their family.
That story coming out of Washington State. Meanwhile, in local matters, some local companies remodeling and expanding, all for the grand opening of a multi-million-dollar investment in downtown Meridian. We'll talk about it, but before we get to that, here is this morning's Tech Bites. All right, it is now 19 until the top of the hour. A tour bus driver dead now. Several students left injured following a bus crash. We're going to have the latest about that out of Alabama. All right, 15 until the top of the hour. Around Alabama today, State Highway Patrol officials say a tour bus driver was killed, several students injured, all when a bus plunged into a ravine near Loxley. The bus was carrying high school band students. They were coming back to the Houston area or heading back to the Houston, Texas area when apparently they plunged into a deep ravine off of Interstate 10. About 45 people were on that bus. It was returning from a competition at Disney World. State troopers in Alabama still trying to determine why that bus crossed the median and then crashed into that ravine.
We're extremely grateful for the first responders, hospital employees, and volunteers from churches and schools in Alabama and Florida. They've stepped up to help our students and comfort them through this difficult situation.
Well, a second bus that was carrying students back from that same trip pulled into Channel View High School east of Houston under police escort late yesterday. All right, it's time now to take a look at health news today. Americans have the best health care in the world. Have you ever heard that before? Or have you heard this as well? Americans have some of the most expensive health care in the world. Which is true and why? We're exploring that today. Here's ABC's Tara Palmieri with that story.
As a nation, we seem to be helpless against high medical costs. A new study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association points out a few of the key reasons. It's not that we use our doctors and our hospitals more frequently, the study says. We're about the same as Sweden or Japan, but we love to test. We perform more CT scans than anywhere else in the world. Doctor salaries are about twice as high here as the UK or Germany, and the cost of brand name drugs also bump up the price tag. Here's a telling figure. 84% of our prescriptions are for less expensive generic drugs, but they account for only 30% of the total dollars spent on pharmaceuticals. Our prescription drugs cost often twice as much as those sold in Europe. Crestor, for example, lowers cholesterol for $186 in America. In Germany, it's just $41. It's a telling report on the health of our healthcare wallets. With this Medical Minute, I'm Tara Palmieri, ABC News.
Local civic leaders learning about a hospital which serves children out of Louisiana. The Downtown Optimist Club hosted its weekly meeting yesterday, and the guest speaker represents the Shriners Hospital for Children facility, which is located in Shreveport, Louisiana. Now, he talked to the members about what the hospital does. The goal for that facility is to help children who have skeletal diseases, deformities, and/or injuries. The hospital relies on community support, and employees are just grateful for the donations they receive. The facility in Shreveport serves children in Mississippi Mississippi and Alabama as well. All right, 9 minutes now until the top of the hour. Coming up, well wishes for one of our own. That story coming up after this. We'll be back.
This quiet road deep in the woods of Clark County leads to one of East Mississippi's most beautiful state parks.
We got about 4 in here.
But Clarko State Park is more than just a place to relax this weekend.
Got my brother in here. He's so tired.
This popular park has become an evacuation destination for dozens of Floridians, including View and his family who left their homes near Tampa before Hurricane Irma started threatening the Sunshine State.
How nervous or worried are you?
1 to 10. I'm at a 10.
View and his family bought several tents on the drive over to Mississippi and loaded their cars with as much food and supplies as possible.
Items could be replaced, lives can't, so I'm just glad we all made it out here.
All the hotels are pretty much booked up, so this is a good option for us.
Becky Munitz also left Florida ahead of the storm. Munitz and her family are also staying at the park.
I'm telling you, we are so impressed by this area. Everybody has been extremely hospitable and friendly. We've almost been brought to tears a couple times with how wonderful people are here.
You got a feel for what these folks are going through, leaving everything they got, and don't know what they're going to have to go back to.
Clarko State Park manager Tony Fleming says he and his staff are doing everything they can to make the evacuees feel comfortable.
It don't look good, but we're praying for the families that thought about staying, but the ones that are here, we're glad we got them a safe place to be.
The evacuees tell us they're not sure when they'll be able to go home. In the meantime, they're making the best of it here in our neck of the woods. Pat Peterson, News Center 11.
Wednesday night's chase caught many in the quiet town of DeKalb by surprise. Kim Lovett is one of them.
Blue lights flashing, and that was the most excitement we'd seen in a while.
Kim and her husband live right off Church Street. That's where the crash occurred. When it happened, they were pulling onto the street after celebrating their 43rd anniversary.
Now, this is a little more exciting than 43 years ago.
It was dangerous. There was oncoming traffic, and it was a dangerous situation.
Robert Joyner is the chief investigator for the Kemper County Sheriff's Department. He says Thomas Evans tried to escape by going around a deputy's car and driving into someone's yard.
This is a piece of the suspect's vehicle, piece of the side body molding.
Evans crashed yards away at the end of the dead-end road along the edge of a wooded area. Investigators say the suspect is lucky because this crash could have been so much worse, and here is why. Right behind me, close to this crash site, there's a drop-off. It's just yards away, literally, if that, from the area where the suspect crashed. Others from the town who did not want to appear on camera say Evans is truly lucky to be alive because that ravine is very deep. As for Kemper County authorities, they say their case on this matter is closed.
We're not going to have charges on him. We assisted Lauderdale County in getting him apprehended.
If you're keeping a close eye on your cash, a staycation might be the perfect plan. So what is a staycation? It involves staying at home or taking affordable one-day trips to local attractions. I started my staycation journey right here in Lauderdale County and found a lot to do.
Oh, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it's serene.
Cynthia Redmond is a groundskeeper at Dunn's Falls. It's located in the southern part of the county and features a 65-foot waterfall.
It's family fun. Families can do it together.
Staying with the water theme, there's also the Splashdown Water Park at Oktibbe Lake.
It's kind of one of those hidden secrets here in Lauderdale County. We invite the public to come out and enjoy themselves.
Other interesting attractions include a tour of the 60 horses that are featured in the Around Town Carousel Abound project, which starts in Meridian and spreads into neighboring counties. Here's something I didn't know. Some of the carousel horses have a backstory to them, including this one. This is Lady. She can be found in Dumont Plaza in downtown. And if you look in her eyes, you can see the image of the alleged ghost from the former Opera House, which is now the Riley Center. Of course, the historic Denzel Carousel in Highland Park is also a must-see, along with other historical attractions like the museum, which spotlights the father of country music, Meridian's own Jimmy Rogers.
It's Jimmy's famous guitar. It's been appraised at between $1 and $3 million. So it's the most valuable guitar in existence today.
I love it. Glad we got to see this.
There's also the historic Mary Hope Mansion.
And it's really interesting.
Really?
Yes. It's more like a history trip for us, too. Yes.
Plus, there are solemn sites that attract tourists. One example, the gravesite of Meridian native James Chaney. He was one of the 3 civil rights workers murdered during Freedom Summer 1964 in neighboring Neshoba County. Whether your stop reflects on the past or if it's strictly for modern-day fun, tourism experts say staycations are good opportunities to create long-lasting memories. Andrea Williams, News Center 11.